Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on this edition of The Inside on Équinoxe Television. My name is Babla Jonathan. In today's edition of the program, we're going to talk about the abduction and killing of traditional rulers in the crisis-hit northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. Growing hate speech, notably on social media, threatening, according to some analysts, to provoke a civil war in the two English-speaking regions of the Republic of Cameroon. We'll also talk about what some legal minds have qualified as an attempt to reduce the practice of the legal profession in Cameroon to minor litigations. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest in this edition of the program is a member of Cameroon's upper house of parliament, a barrister at law, Senator Barrister Henry Gamze KEMENDE. Thank you for joining us today.
The pleasure is mine. Thanks for inviting me to your studio.
We begin with recent happenings in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, particularly in the southwest region, where three traditional rulers in the Fako division were abducted by armed men, and one of them died in the course of the abduction, the traditional ruler of Mile 14. What you think about this other twist of the Anglophone crisis in which traditional rulers have become targets?
Well, it is unfortunate what has recently taken place in the southwest region. It is something which we could predict, because you see, originally traditional rulers were independent personalities. They were independent in the sense that they used to govern their villages in accordance with the laid-down traditions. They were not interfered with as far as political affairs were concerned, particularly partisan politics. You see, if it is politics within traditional rulers, politics within the circle of traditional rulers, that's a different thing altogether. If it is politics with regard to enforcing government policy, without necessarily being that partisan, in fact, there's no trouble about it. But when traditional rulers, as at the moment that the government started involving traditional rulers in partisan politics, and politicians use that opportunity to start meddling around with them over political issues, whereby they are pitted against some class of persons within their own given communities. That is when I knew that traditional rulers are in for trouble. Because by the time before they become traditional rulers, they were unknown entities. They were never known. They could simply be known
political.
as... Yes, they were political. They were simply, before becoming traditional rulers, they were simply known as princes, maybe princes and princesses, because we now have traditional rulers east of the Mungu who are equally ladies. Before becoming traditional rulers, they were princes and princesses. Simply, they were going about their affairs in the villages, in their various villages, like any other villager. They were not known
within the framework of the traditional administration.
In fact, within the framework of traditional administration, there used to be houses whereby princes, meetings of princes and princesses, where they do at least guide the traditional ruler, or they decide they take decisions over certain things that are taking place traditionally. You see, they have their own role to play as far as village administration was concerned. But now we have situations whereby they get involved in politics. And what makes them to become excited in politics is not because they were politically oriented from the onset. It is because of the fact that they have been given the throne of the village, which makes them the father of the village. Be it party X, Y, or Z, they were supposed to accommodate everybody. But when they become partisan, it means that they are prepared now to face other villagers in a political competition, which makes it most irregular. It makes them, I consider that as using the throne to compete with a villager, because originally, before becoming traditional rulers, they were not known within the political circles. But now, having acceded to the throne of the village, they now become political figures par excellence, because of the throne that have been given them without them competing for it by the village, by the entire village, which makes me consider it harvesting from where they never sowed.
When you talk of partisan politics, you're referring to belonging to a political party.
A political party.
But do those traditional rulers belong to any political parties? The one of Saul, for example, who was abducted, and the other traditional rulers who have been killed or abducted in the southwest, which is notably in the Fakko division, do they belong to any political party?
They belong to Mr. Babila Jonathan. I will not be the one to tell you that funds of the northwest and southwest regions belong to political parties. We don't need to cite names. You can mention any of them who is into partisan, who is holding a position of responsibility, either being mayor. There is no way by which you can become a mayor without being partisan. There is no way you can become a member of parliament without competing under the canopy of a political party. We don't know of any independent.
Some of them are senators who were appointed by the head of state.
Many, they were appointed, but go to the Senate and see the sticker, the name tag that is in front of them. It's a name tag of a political party. You know, we have colors in the Senate. On my name tag, you have the colors of the SDF. On the name tag of every senator, you have the colors of the party. And all of the traditional rulers with whom I'm in the Senate, they all belong to one party or the other. There is no name tag which carries the colors of an independent personality. There is no independent senator. There is no independent member of parliament in our houses of parliament. And come to think of it, what are you talking about? Come to think of it, naturally, it's an open secret that the vice president of the ruling party is a traditional ruler. Is that something which we need to hide? There are many of them.
Fonangwa for the
third, that is a public figure. That is a traditional ruler, first class chief, and it belongs to the ruling CPDM. He is a vice president of the ruling CPDM party. That is a political party where the first vice president is a traditional ruler. Come to think of them, there are many. Just cite another example. Let me tell you whether or not they belong to a political party or not. There is none who is into active politics, be it a senator, be it a member of parliament of the lower house, be it a mayor, be it even just co-opted into a post of responsibility, go behind or see them during campaign periods. They are with mufflers on their necks. They are with political party governments, particularly of the ruling party, because they consider they are made to understand that you cannot buy the finger that fits you, because you have been appointed by the government, and people have been influenced to think that belonging to being appointed into a post of responsibility in government means that you must militate for the ruling party, which is not so. When you are called to serve the people of Cameroon, you must not be called to serve those people under a canopy of political party, be the ruling party or whichever party.
But Mr. Senator, where is the crime in belonging to any political party? You are a legal mind, and you certainly agree with me that there is the right of association.
There is wrongdoing as far as traditional rulers, Mr. Babila. The topic is that of traditional rulers taking part in partisan politics. There is wrongdoing there. Why is there wrongdoing there? The wrongdoing there is that before becoming the father of the village, the traditional ruler in question was not known within political circles. So what suddenly makes him become a political icon? It is the fact that he is using a people's throne. I consider it some sort of
the throne which belongs to
everybody. He is using that throne when he is standing there campaigning as a fund. People find it difficult to distinguish the fund of the village or the chief of that village and the candidate standing for elections. There is no way you can split, or you can draw a line between that fund or a chief that is standing as a candidate and the fact that he is holding that throne. So in fact, I happen to have come from an environment where we had that typical confusion, whereby you could not talk to your fund when you cannot talk to your front differently from when you talk to your mayor. A mayor is a democratically elected official, and he needs to be told things that are not moving correct in his face. But when you know very well how we respect traditional rulers, there is nobody democratically who can use a democratic right to challenge a fund who is a mayor at the same time. It becomes difficult. It needs only some people who have courage to be able to tell a fund of a village or a chief that Your Majesty, this thing is going wrong. You have acted wrongly here, or you have not done this correctly, or could you give us an account of what you have done with this money and all not? It will be considered a challenge. It will be considered an aberration. to that given society that you are questioning the fund, to asking the fund to give an account. Whereas, as a mayor, he is supposed to give an account to the people. As long as you hold elective office, you are accountable to the people. But then, traditionally, within our traditional societies, it is not normal to ask a fund to be accountable. So the situation that makes funds to get into politics is just like we know of, in our tradition, we know of a chinda back, and we know of the fund's seat, the fund's throne. It is like a situation now that the way I can compare the fund getting into politics now, or the chiefs getting into politics, I can compare to a situation whereby the back of the chinda has been seen by the fund to be growing bigger. And then he has removed the cap of the fund and throne, and is going now to hold the back of the chinda. These are two different things. That is what actually is happening.
So in your opinion, funds or chiefs should stay away from politics?
They should stay away from partisan politics. They should do politics if there is any association whereby they are within their own ranks. They can do politics within those ranks. They should stay away from partisan politics, particularly becoming candidates, because you are using a wrong platform to compete with a villager. That is unfair competition. You are using a throne whereby you have been put there as of right, and whereby you are respected by everybody. You are owed respect by everybody, be the person from the CPDM, SDF, UNDP, UPC. They owe you respect. They cannot speak to you they speak to you with reverence. And you are using that throne now. You are using that throne which makes you unequal vis-a-vis the normal villager. You are using that throne now to fight, because the other candidate he is fighting with is a villager who is under his rule. So he is using that position to bring intimidation to bear in the first place, the psychological intimidation to bear. And then secondly, he is using that throne to wield power over what is supposed to be equal competition. Wherever he passes, because people who are moving behind the fund, there are some people who are moving behind him during campaigns, forgetting that he is not going out campaigning now like a fund. He is campaigning as an individual personality standing elections. But then he goes with all the horror. He uses the traditional institutions to do the campaign, which makes it unequal competition vis-a-vis the other person who is standing elections to competing with him. It becomes an unfair competition. That is wrong.
But if the traditional rulers were to stay away from politics, would it be possible to establish the House of Chiefs?
That is why I say the politics I want to be particular here to stop off. Staying away from partisan politics. Within the House of Chiefs, you have chiefs who may belong in ideology to the SFCPA, but then inside them, they are doing politics on how to manage their various communities, how to manage their various villages. They are doing they are electing their peers to manage the House of Chiefs. They are consulted over issues that are constitutionally provided, and they give their opinion without bias. That is politics within the House of Chiefs. That is politics with their peers as chiefs, as funds. That one, there is nothing wrong about that. One can compete vis-a-vis a colleague to beat him to become the president of the House of Chiefs, to become the speaker of the House of Chiefs. There's no problem about that. But that of competing, using the throne of a fund or a chief to compete with a citizen, with a villager, is unfair competition.
Some of the illegal. Traditional rulers took part in the December 6 regional elections as candidates for the regional assembly, not the House of Chiefs.
Yes.
Some of them will be members of the regional assembly for the Northwest and Southwest regions, and some of them will be members of the regional councils in the other 8 regions.
Yes.
Is there a problem there also, being a member of the regional assembly, which is more of a political body?
Well, as I say, as long as they are there on the platform, I will repeat, Mr. Babila Jonathan, as long as they are there on the platform of a political party, it is wrong. It is wrong. It remains wrong today, tomorrow, and after tomorrow. It is wrong. They are using a wrong platform to compete. It cannot, as long as they are competing with their villagers. As long as they're competing with their villagers. Because there are certain things, there are certain ways by which we go about campaigns. When it is time for campaign, you know you're putting in your money, into a business that you count on succeeding. And there are certain moments that we throw jibes. We don't limit our outings. We don't respect people. We may respect, but we don't respect to certain extents. But then a phone is due traditional respect. There are certain things that you say to him that you would not have said it if he was not into partisan politics. There are certain things that because certainly you are fighting for survival in that race. You are fighting to succeed. You have a stake. You've put monies. You've invested in that particular political adventure. So you will not let it go because you want to respect the fund. If he is on that side, with the fund. A subject fighting with the fund. Honestly, they always say that if a fund gets into a marketplace, he must buy according to a market price. Because if you were to go, if a fund normally does not go to the market, he sits and they bring him the best product from the market. They get him what is available in the market, the best quality, and they bring to him the palace. But if he goes to the market where somebody has taken his goods wares to go and sell, he must buy according to the market price. So if a fund goes into the political arena to fight with his villager over a seat, which I consider first of all a seat for the chindas, because to be a mayor, to be a parliamentarian, it means that you want to be accountable to your people, of which a fund is never accountable to his people. They bring and he manages. They even give you some of the things as of right. Yes, there are some of the privileges you enjoy. There are days that even people go work for you. They enjoy some of those privileges as of right. But then, when he now is given something that he has to account for, it is really upset. And the worst of it is that they will risk, because mayors have been going to prison. Some the people who occupy public office have been going to prison. They risk if they cannot account, because we have audit courts. The audit bench of the Supreme Court, we have audit courts that will be decentralized to find themselves at the regional levels. They will be controlled. And when they are controlling, they're not controlling them as funds, they control them as mayors. And if they are found wanting, guilty of misappropriation, embezzlement, they go to prison. How do I imagine that my fund will be faced with a prison term because of mismanagement?
Is the involvement in partisan politics, according to you, is it the only thing that has exposed them to attacks from armed men?
That is not the only. That's not the only element that has exposed them to attack. It is that the politicians equally use some of them, to do their bidding. Some of the politicians, they define some political objectives for themselves, and they think that they need to satisfy the powers that be in getting certain things done the way they want it done. And at times, since they cannot come to the field, but they have the money, they have what it takes to get that thing done, and it's the person who can actually run that errand for them. It's how we are turning things topsy-turvy. That is, a fund who is supposed to send people to run, or a chief that is supposed to send people to run errands for him, they are instead politicians instead send them to run errands for them because of this money. In fact, money was not supposed to be used as a tool as far as our policies are concerned, because the honor that are vested with what they get as of right, as of honor, it may not be as much as the money that the politicians may be getting from government, but it comes with a lot of honor that you cannot compare, you cannot value it in terms of money.
Now, when we get to the
so the politicians, they use some of the chiefs to do their bidding because they cannot get to the field. So they now see the miserable fund or the miserable chief is there without money, and they come and brandish some cash. Since they go to Yaoundé, they shuttle between Yaoundé, and they have the powers to get the monies out of the system. They come and give some to the fund and tell the fund to do what they wish done, and the fund too does it, and that is where he now takes side. He becomes partisan by dint of the fact that he's running an errand for a politician.
Now, beyond the politics, beyond the fact that the funds, the chiefs have got themselves involved in politics, or better still, partisan politics, when traditional rulers become targets in a situation like the security crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, what can we read within the lines? What are the signals as far as the evolution of the crisis is concerned? This is something that was not common before this year. For example, the fund of Saw abducted, 3 phones abducted in the southwest region. 2 or 3 of them have already died and killed in circumstances.
It is unfortunate. It is an ill omen that is befalling our land, and in fact, we are trying to unmake history, because historically, the traditional rulers of the northwest and southwest regions managed their people directly, and the administration,
in the days of indirect rule.
Be it the colonial administration, Germans or the English, as the case may be, or the government immediately after independence, they passed through them to get to the people, and with that they kept their respect. They had all the respect that was due them. And that was what we refer to in history as indirect rule. That was a system by which they were governed, that the populations of the northwest and southwest regions they were governed, or the either two populations of the southern Cameroon or west Cameroon, they were governed. But in fact, it was not the same scenario that obtained east of the Mongo. The chiefs east of the Mongo were at the beck and call of the government. They even have a uniform. They have a uniform just in the same line, the same spirit like the sous-prefects and the prefects, and the governors have uniforms that they wear. They too have their own category of uniforms. So show that they were part, and they were referred to as auxiliaries of the administration. They were sewn uniforms, and they used to file past when the hierarchy arrives. They give a salute. It was actually part of the administration, part and parcel of the administration in place. They were not used as to rule their people indirectly. But east, west of the Mongo, the Fons were the ones who had direct control. They had the respect of their populations. It is because of that, and that if you put in Southland, for instance, if you put the Fon of the village, and an SDO or a governor, in fact, the Southman will respect the Fon. The Southman will respect the Fon. I will not respect the DO, will not respect the SDO, will not respect even the governor. And it is even in history that even the head of state, His Excellency Amadou Ayuja then, visited the son of the Fon of Son and removed his shoes and entered as any other person removed his shoes to enter the palace, to enter to see the Fon. He too did same, to enter and see the Fon of Son, showing how powerful our traditional institutions were. They were considered, they were the people who were directly related, directly in touch with the local population, and you could not do without them. And they had all the respect. They are now about to change. What is happening now is unfortunate. It's like the system does not like that, like to see traditional rulers having direct bearing over their people instead of the administration. So they want now to reduce them into to make them subservient, and to make them the people's attachment towards them, to weaken it, in order that they can directly, the sous-prefects, the prefects, and the governors, and they can have direct rule over the people instead of passing through their funds. The fact that the people were respecting their funds more than the administration has not been very, very soothing to the government.
And that respect seems to be disappearing, because it is for a subject to kidnap a traditional ruler.
In fact, formally, it was not easy even to hold a fund. It was not easy to even lay hands on a fund. In fact, they were even at certain moments, we grew up to know that if you want to slap a phone, you need to even wipe your hands on the ground before you even slap him, if at all.
In Balinyonga, for example, you don't come close to the phone to talk to him.
Mr. Babila, you and I, we are from the
Chamba tribe. Another person.
We are from the Chamba tribe.
Who
transmit the message to him.
But today,
and each time he talks, nobody opposes him. Anything that he says, even if course, he says, that shows that they want him, everything that he does, they want to see, they want to press him. You see? Because formally, a chief, before he speaks, he was full of wisdom. He has advisors, left, right, center. Even the process of coronation makes him become a father of a village, that away from what he was before. Because the coronation process, they drill him, they make him to become old within that period of time. You see, so in fact, they were really respected. So the respect is going to be destroyed with what is going on now, with the fact that they have now been placed under the government payroll, or the state payroll, and because of the fact that they are paying them this stipend, whether 100,000 francs, 200 or 200 or 300, or how much they are paying, whether it's 50,000 francs or some categories, they want now to bring them under the grip of the administration, and which is unfortunate. They're destroying our tradition. They're destroying our tradition. There was a way by which they could make use of them better than making them to submit, making them to become irrelevant to their people.
These are the very persons who were looked upon as people who can champion the cause for a return to peace and normalcy. People who can talk to the civilians, the subjects who are carrying guns, and convince
them
they
cannot talk to them.
Guns. But when they become targets, what can we say about the
future? It is because of the fact that
the crisis,
yes,
and the direction it is taking today.
The chiefs, the real chiefs, some respect, they have given advice, pieces of advice to the government about how to go about the crisis. The real chiefs who have maintained their integrity, they have given their unalloyed advice, pieces of advice to the government to how to go about the crisis, but the government will not hear, will succumb to that advice. You see, there are some funds who have not left their palaces, who have maintained, and they have the respect of their people. It's not all of them. But those who have become partisan, those who run after these pieces of silver, they are losing their respect.
The paramount ruler of the Bamenchu people in the West region,
that is
His Royal Majesty Sokoju Jean Rameau II, said that the traditional rulers who took part in the regional elections fell in the trap of the regime.
That is a fun. They may not call them fun there, but that is really a traditional ruler. They may not call them funds in the West region. That is a traditional ruler. He is saying what comes from within him. You see, one thing we fail to understand is that the government need not be pampered. The government policies are crafted by individuals. The government is not a human being. The state is not a human being. And that's why when you define a state, the state is matter of a country is matter of a map, boundary, population, and a government. You see, when you take one of them out, if you take the population out of it, it is no longer a state. And why do you say the population? And the population has elected officials, and those elected officials are supposed to advise the government. But we have a situation whereby few individuals, they appropriate to themselves the paraphernalia of the state. And whatever action they take, they do use the state machinery to say this is a state action that is being taken. But meanwhile, it is ill-advised. It is their personal agenda that they have taken and fitted into the state machinery to make it look grandiose, to make it look mammoth, and for it now to grind the population, despite the fact that they are against that particular policy.
And the recent happenings in the northwest and southwest regions of the country is provoking a wave of hate speech, which is being propagated on social media, and according to some analysts, it is kind of threatening to provoke a civil war in the two English-speaking regions of the country, in crisis for close to 4 years today. But before we talk about that, we're going to take a look at what the newspapers reported this week. Immaculate Fugwe with the press review.
The Guardian Post says, after regional elections, suspected separatist fighters invade palaces, kidnapping chiefs. The Post, 3 Boya chiefs abducted, 1 confirmed dead. The Voice Weekender, hate speech Braca chief Moja simulates resistance while delivering instructed apology. The Sun, Prime Minister Chief Joseph Jangutin Boya and Limbe to inspect retained sport infrastructures and meet with Southwest chiefs. The Post Weekender, Prime Minister Chief Joseph Jangutin urging chiefs of the Southwest region to tighten security. The Voice, Social Democratic Front Party enjoins diasporan Ambazonian activists to stop inflaming Anglophone crisis. Another edition of the Guardian Post reports about Professor Maurice Kamto under pressure to hold Dr. Christopher Fomio Akeremuna Agbobala into the Cameroonese Movement political party. Another edition of the Guardian Post says Kamto and Nature's secret meeting sends warning signals. The Guiding Post, Dr. Christopher Fomio laughs off accusation of interception at Ghana's airport with $100,000. The Horizon Social Democratic Front Party begins to pick up pieces. In the same edition of the paper, Ate Bazo becomes first Anglophone Sonakam Botchier.
Thanks, Immaculate Fogwe, for the press review. Senator, what do you think about this hate speech that is fast growing on social media today? And there is a kind of wave of hatred that is growing between the people of the two English-speaking regions of the country, with some individuals rising up to say, no, we don't want this, we don't want that, and so on.
It is unfortunate, and I don't know why the government is taking its time to intervene to arrest some of those propagators of the hate speech. One would not imagine that somebody will be moving around freely, going about freely, preaching hate speech, and he is being filmed. All the evidence is there. He is not hidden, he is not in the bushes. He is known to be residing somewhere, and he's going about. His activities are covered by camera and is propagated over television, over social media, and the government is watching it to degenerate before they get to intervene. In fact, I see it as unfortunate. I don't know what, because permitting it to happen, allowing it to have gone to this extent unabated, without it being arrested, without the government coming in, it shows that there is a hidden hand behind such the propagation of that hate speech. I want to think that the government has a hand inside. I say it without any fear of contradiction. I say it without mincing words. The government may have a hand. There are these people who are coming out and talking, preaching hate speech, whereas we have voted laws that punish people who propagate hate speech. The law is there already, voted and promulgated. Instead of the legal department or the powers that be the administration going out, particularly when the picture of such a person propagating hate speech is gone viral, instead of going out to arrest and prosecute, they are instead allowing it to gather momentum. But I want to take this opportunity to thank the populations of the Northwest and Southwest regions for their maturity, because I think they have so far displayed a high sense of maturity, without which we would have been somewhere else. People have lost their lives through such processes. People have lost their property through such hate speech. They have gone further than just seeing it on social media. Some people have been killed. Some their property have been destroyed. Their homes have been destroyed. Some have been actually, and in fact, dislodged from where they consider they are only Cameroon. Because if you are dislodged from where you consider it home, the constitution talks of the Cameroonian being free to settle anywhere. You can live from here, but you go and buy your land at extreme north and settle there. You are at home. And if you don't have any other house anywhere else in Cameroon, that home in Maroua is your Cameroon. For somebody to dislodge you from that home at Maroua without any other alternative, it means that you have been exiled from your country without just cause. So that is actually that's actually the impact of such acts, whereby you are, through hate speech, you have been dislodged from where you consider your home, where you consider your own Cameroon. You have been exiled from your country without anybody addressing it, and they are taking it as normal. It is wrong. And what is beginning here, unfortunately, it will not know. Few, I want to be proud about Cameroonians. Few Cameroonians of these two regions will fall into that trap, except the government were to allow the people propagating those hate speeches to go ahead and kill without any of this thing. But then most of the people who are provoked, I can tell you, they will not react. They will not react in a negative manner. We will not have that Rwanda crisis here that is being allowed to degenerate into. It is unfortunate.
Exactly, and I was going to ask you, what are the dangers looming with such propagation of hate speech? We saw some young people in Boy on the streets blocking vehicles with machetes and making some...
They are agents provocateurs. The real drummers are in the bush. They always say that if you see a bird dancing on the highway, or dancing in the streets. You should know the real drummers are inside the bush playing the drum for the birds to be dancing on the highway. The real drummers are in the bush, and there are those people who think that they stand to benefit from those hate speeches, or to benefit maybe if these people were driven out of where they have considered it their home, they will be able to have what they could not have with their president. But it is not so. The issue about migration is a world phenomenon. We have people who are managing, who are heads of states in America, who are not the indigenous American citizens, who are not the Red Indians, who are known to be the original inhabitants of American land. There are people, the Irish people who migrated to America. They are the ones who have governed. You talk about the Bushes, you talk about the Clintons, you talk about even the president, the Biden, the president-elect of America. They are all Irish, from Irish descendants. We have many. Migration is not an African issue only. Migration is not a Cameroonian issue only. It's a world issue. It's a world issue. And the people who are defending the land where they are, thinking that they are the people who own the land, they were not originally there. They migrated into that land. Because the whole world was actually migration. At one moment, people were on the move, moving and relocating. Nobody owned the land that he belongs. He finds himself there. It was through migration that we all find ourselves where we are. And even if they were today to propagate that hate speech and cause civil strife, it will not mark an end to the migration. Before long, when things will come back to normal, people will still migrate to the various parcels and occupy the various parcels of land still. There will still be migration.
What could be the impact of such propagation of hate speech on the evolution of the crisis? Because there's already a crisis.
The intended purpose, I will not mince my words to say, the intended purpose is to make sure there is disunity amongst the Ambazonian fighters. To make sure that there's a split, there's a divide. The divide and rule policy is to make sure they create splinter groups to be fighting each other in order that at the end of the day they can defeat. They can win over the war against the Ambazonians could be won without necessarily sitting down to discuss with anybody whatsoever. We have said it, and we still keep saying it. Even the destruction, they can even create a civil strife and end up causing the Anglophones to destroy themselves. The issue about the Anglophone crisis will still come back to the table one day. So why postpone something which you will be faced with either today or tomorrow? Because the crisis remains. It is the unborn child even knows about the crisis. The little children who are there growing up, they have known about the Anglophone crisis more than even the people of the past.
And the question today, many or almost everybody agree on the point that bloodshed, killing, destruction are not necessary. Can it be solved peacefully? Can this problem be solved peacefully?
In fact, it is like we don't know what to say again. When we have a government that is stubborn to a fault. When I say stubborn, I don't mean people. There are people who incarnate that government, who incarnate the state of Cameroon, who are so stubborn. That is, who are so stubborn that they don't care if the whole country were to be brought down into ashes, and it remains just a geographical expression, and if the country has to be rebuilt by a few of them to make it look the way they want it to be. But it is unfortunate. It is with migration. If you kill all of Cameroonians who are presently in this country, the ones who are outside, they will come, and the same problems will come up. The same problems will come out. Anybody who is out from the Anglophone era, kill all of the Anglophones. Any person who is out of the country will come back and still ignite the same problem.
How can the problem be solved peacefully?
The problem can be solved peacefully by conducting a real dialogue. What took place in November last, it was not a dialogue. By calling the people, in fact, it is just like when this crisis started, I had a discussion with the present governor of the Northwest region. And his interpretation, when I talked about the common law, what issues, things that are about to be are done, which is not proper, that of transferring Francophone magistrates to come and incarnate our courts Whereas we still have traces of the common law, even though we are going through harmonization. We have not harmonized all yet, but to transfer magistrates to come and preside where they'll be attending to common law matters. In fact, it is like saying declaring death to the common law, whereas it is still around. In fact, when I said it and I said certain things that happened to have been said before then by the SCNC of yesteryears, the governor said, oh, donc vous êtes de la même famille que le SCNC. That way. I said to Your Excellency, if that is the case, then all Anglophones are SCNC. I said, then all Anglophones are SCNC. Did I go far? From there, the problems started degenerating. Because of the same ideas. Ideas that are embedded in the Anglophones are considered SCNC ideologies. It is just today like some of the ideas that are propagated by people who want us divided, but which ideas are also held by some bona fide Anglophone Cameroonians. They are branded as Ambazonians. You don't give color to ideas. You don't give color to ideas. To say that we are better off if we were to go back to what we were yesterday, by going to a federal system, because it worked. It worked. It never created such discontent amongst Anglophones. It worked and worked wonderfully well. So by saying that where we are going on to go and fall into an abyss, and that the best way is to turn back. We have missed our way. We have missed our way. We are now scraping the foundation on which this nation was built. Please, let's go back to where and retrace the proper road to follow, to say that it is not an offense. It is not an offense. We are not. When we were under a federal system, we're not lesser Cameroonians than we are today. It is somebody's idea.
Something that it was more expensive, and it's more expensive to run with the states.
It is if it is expensive. If it is expensive to run a federation in a country that has such a sociological composition like Cameroon, Anglophones, Francophones, beginning at the macro level, then you are saying that it's expensive for us to stay together. You are saying that it's expensive for us to stay together. What is expensive if it has to make us stay together as one country? How can it be expensive for us to stay together? Then you are saying that we should go apart. We should go. You are siding with the people who are saying that we are better separated than remain together. If you say that it's expensive, but I'm telling you, it's not expensive. We run ourselves as a federation without any problem, without the discovery of petrol. Today we are having minerals, everything discovered. There are many things that are yet to be exploited, and resources are supposed to be growing instead of dwindling. I'm telling you that Cameroon is not a poor country. If we were poor, this crisis would have brought us down by now. They would not have been able to pay civil servants. But unfortunately for us, we are still, the state machinery is still running.
We'll take some
despite all this crisis.
We'll take some interviews right now. When we come back, we'll talk about what some legal minds have qualified as an attempt to reduce the legal profession in Cameroon to minor litigations. Stay with us.
The killing of the traditional ruler of the Bantamese 14 calls for general mobilization against evil. However, we should do so as one person. We should do so without giving into the divisive tendency stating that criminals come from one or the other area.
We are beggars for peace. We are begging the populations of Moya to contribute at this time by participating actively with the administration and the forces of law and order, so that those among us who are spilling blood will be brought to book, and we shall all live in peace like we did in the past. I have the merciful hope that this demonstration will incline the hearts of the few who still carry hatred and perpetrate wickedness around.
We thank God for the concern of the head of state we sent the Prime Minister to come and condole with the people of Franco for what just happened. We know we are in a situation of war. It can happen through this way or through that way, but I think that the message he brought for us, which is very, very important, is that we should be cautious for ourselves, conscious for the fact that we should ensure that we will have enough security around us when we want to carry out even a family meeting at home.
Let us define it as a plan to be done in all aspects of the life, and so-called we are building together in the economic integration of the population, so that you know that there has been many things has collapsed there, so you have to reconstruct in order to build a new environment for the people here, for the people there. We have also to target the employment the employment issue. We have to employ the governance, the decentralization, and the planning, the strategic planning of the state. That is all this aspect that has to be done. And you know also that the United Nations system has put aside some resources, you know, to accompany the government to rebuild Northwest and Southwest.
The SDF talked about the federal system of governance. They've come in with the decentralization. You'll see that all that they were talking was the SDF language and trying to do things the way SDF could have done. And because the SDF absented themselves from these elections, they smoothened everything to make it look hitch-free. Even where people voted new votes, they still erased it to say that nobody voted new, everybody was a citizen. And I ask myself, with the war in the north and southwest, none of those places could vote for the SDF. And you go sit down and you arrogate to yourself that, oh, we went to election, we had 100% here, this and that. Is that fair? There's no country in the world that will give 100% under the conditions that we found ourselves in. The SDF, you've seen the SDF fighting these things all along. You see the masquerade that they've been playing, pushing things this way, that way. Now they have to come with ambas. Now they have to come with the army. The army started shooting guns in the morning. Did you go out yourself as a journalist? Why didn't you go out? Because they were shooting guns. So when you cannot go out as a journalist to cover the truth, you think that Chris Mbumwe, who is also a journalist in Bamenda, should go out and vote? The young generation, I'm encouraging them to come in. I'm aging and going. And if I don't talk about the young generation, then I've deceived myself. I've been talking about them. And you notice that in all the elections that the SDF has participated in, the SDF's candidates were the youngest in most of the elections. So we've been thinking of them. But I just want to emphasize more that I need more of them in.
At the level of the National Executive Committee, we looked at all the elections. We have no petition for disciplinary measures on our desk at this time. I hope I'm not contradicting somebody who talked to you before me, but I did the entire meeting and at no one point was there an issue of indiscipline that needed the executive committee to sit as a disciplinary committee to look into it. This meeting was called up after the party had suffered severely from COVID-19. I don't think another political party has suffered as much as we did. So we had to come together. It's kind of a reunion of the National Executive Committee, after which we will launch our activities again on the field. You know, we had our last meeting in sometime in November last year, on the 9th of November, if I'm not mistaken, and after that we got into elections, and then we got into competitions, and then we left the Supreme Court just a couple of weeks ago before the regional elections. So we've been extremely out of place. We have not been sitting together to discuss, so it was very important that all NEC members, and as you can see, many people who are not even NEC members were invited as well, so that we can be aligned on the direction we want to take, so that we can be refocused and motivated to take that direction. That was the reason of this meeting. And we'll hold another meeting sometime early next year, where we have put today some committees in place that will do some work during the festive season, and will come back and hopefully give us some very good reports on which we can work on the basis of those reports, so that we take some strong resolutions as we move forward.
We have both refugees and asylum seekers. The total number of individuals is 15,000. But among them we have more than 9,200 refugees and 5,000 asylum seekers. From January we had more than 200 return intentions. Voluntary repatriation is one of the durable solutions implemented by UNHCR for refugees. And those people are not selected. It's effectively a matter of voluntariness. So they call the UNHCR and ask to return to their country. The only thing that we have to be sure is the security where they are going to. And we are in contact with our colleagues in Central Africa who give the go-ahead so that we can be sure that where the persons are going, they will be totally secured. We had several departures during the last weeks. This is the third one. Last week we had 2 departures. Last week we had on the 9th, we have 14 refugees who went back to Central Africa coming from Yaoundé. On the 11th, we had 16 refugees, essentially from Douala, who went back to Central African Republic. And today, yes, we have also 16, among them 10 from Douala and 6 coming from Yaoundé.
The cooperation is too strong, is well revamped, and we can do more. That is why we are here for this exercise. I think you heard about the cooperation in the area of the youth empowerment, in the area of human capital development, in integration, economic integration, the fight against the climate changes, and you heard about the problem in the northwest and southwest, also in the extreme north. So all those aspects are addressed together because we are working together, and we can say that it is an excellent cooperation.
Resource mobilization by 200% and commitment and delivery by 150%. We support national response to the COVID-19 by procure medical and non-medical equipment for 25 million USD. We also help to create 6,300 jobs for women and men. And for the next cooperation framework, we will support implementation of national development strategy, structural transformation area, local development, decentralization, and we will also fight climate change.
Thank you for staying with us. Senator Barrister Henry Gamze KEMENDE, what's happening with the legal profession, the practice of the legal profession in Cameroon?
The legal profession, Mr. Babila Jonathan, has been undergoing a lot of challenges. In fact, everybody does the lawyer's job, officially and unofficially. Everybody every day does a lawyer job. When you intervene for the release of somebody, for instance, and the person is released, you have done a lawyer's job. When you intervene, you plead on behalf of somebody whose rights are trampled upon, and for that reason, the person's rights are re-established. You have done a lawyer's job. When I say we, I mean we of the Bar, Cameroon Bar Association. We are not selfish. We're not greedy. We don't say that people should not intervene. People should not do things that assist their brothers and sisters in the face of abuses. But then, give to the professional legal practitioner. Give to the professional, the person who has chosen that, the right of representation, who have chosen representation as his profession. Give him his due. And suffice it to say, Mr. Babila, that a lawyer, this is one of those professions that is international. A lawyer leaves from Cameroon, gets to Nigeria and meets his colleague. They respect each other as lawyers. He can be lodged by another lawyer in Nigeria. He goes to China, meets a lawyer, he will be accommodated without even caring where he's coming from and before looking into his problem. It's one of those professions that cuts across international boundaries. Tell me, magistrate of Cameroon will not be respected by magistrate of Nigeria anyway, will not be respected by magistrate in the US. In fact, they don't have that bond that brings them together. But the profession of legal representation or the advocate's profession is international. And there are international norms that govern them. They all belong to bar associations. Call it Nigerian Bar Association, American Bar Association, Kenyan Bar Association, Chinese Bar Association. They all have bar associations. And their internal rules and regulations, since it's an age-old tradition, it's an age-old profession. It's a profession that even existed in the days of Jesus Christ. Before Jesus Christ was condemned and nailed on the cross, there were people who advocated for his liberation, his release, or that they should not sanction him. You see, so it's a profession is as old as the creation of the world. In our palaces, we have lawyers. There are traditional rulers, there are councillors, traditional councillors, or who advocate for people who cannot speak for themselves. Those are lawyers. Customary courts, exactly. Who advocate for people who cannot speak for themselves. Those are also the practice of advocacy is everywhere. So to imagine that we will create what that profession is supposed to be differently from that which obtains elsewhere in the world is an aberration.
How is that?
What is happening now is that the lawyer's domain in Cameroon is being eroded on daily basis. It's eroded on daily basis. And the unfortunate thing is that the state, the government that is supposed to protect its own professional lawyer, is equally participating in that erosion. Come to think about it, formerly we used to have litigation over land matters. When individual neighbors they have litigation, conflict over their land, parcels of land, they used to go to court, and the court the evidence will be adduced, and the court trained magistrates will adjudicate over those issues and give judgment to the person who deserves judgment. Nowadays, what has happened? That particular domain of litigation has been taken and given to the administration. Land consultative boards are presided by a non-lawyer, somebody who is not a lawyer, or somebody who is not trained to handle disputes, who is not trained to assess evidence with the eyes of a legal practitioner, is now adjudicated over land matters and given. That's why every day we have conflicts over land. Even the decisions are appealed against, and some people, even though the judgments are given, land certificates exist, but they are cancelled on daily basis because of all those. They are poorly managed at the level of the litigation process before the land consultative board.
And there are also issues of taxation and security, or better still, criminal experts.
That is not only that. Come to think about even the communal land disputes. That's why you should have inter-village land disputes between one village and the other. It has been given to committees that have been created when the villages are within the same community, the same subdivision, by a commission. The commission has been created, headed by the DO. If it is between two divisions, headed by the SDO. Between two subdivisions, headed by the SDO. Between two divisions, headed by the governor. Those commissions they do the jobs of lawyers, and they do decide over things that could have been legal issues. Come to think about it, when government department have matters before the law courts, the bar law has been crafted by the government, and they have been given the right to play the job of to represent the various government departments before the court. There are other domains where there are no lawyers. They have given the domains to the agent d'affaires, and even in the towns, agent d'affaires to have right to do what the lawyer does officially, what the lawyer is supposed to do, that of representing clients and being paid for representing those clients. That's the lawyer's domain. There are other experts who have been created now, like criminal law experts. We will think that they were created just to be called upon as experts to come and give evidence, or to come and go and work on behalf of the court, or investigate and get evidence, come and produce in court as an expert, so a lawyer can use it. But they are instead coming and defending individual clients and be taking fees from individuals and defending them as if they are lawyers. They have created their own association, which is equal to the bar association. Almost to the bar association. And the most embarrassing situation is that they are wearing wigs. Their attire carries the wig, of which the wig, they don't know the tradition, they don't know what the wig symbolizes as far as legal practice is concerned. They are given the right to wear a wig, and they take oath, and they're wearing a wig that belongs to a lawyer traditionally, and they don't know the symbolism of that wig. They are there practicing as lawyers. They are other than them. They are fiscal experts. That's in overtax matters. People consult them to defend them in place of a lawyer to defend them. But meanwhile, the lawyer is supposed to be the one to conduct fiscal litigation. And then if they need anything from an expert, they invite an expert to come and give expert evidence to throw light on that issue as far as the court is concerned, to give better judgment. Not to compete, not to represent people.
Are any of those issues you're highlighting illegal? The experts coming in to act as lawyers, are they illegal?
In fact, that's why I say the government is supporting. We have even magistrates who are awaiting posting. They call them audited justice. They have the right to defend clients over some criminal matters before the court when they don't have any court that govern them as far as that activity is concerned. So you don't know exactly, you don't know where we are going to. Where the lawyer's profession is invaded, the lawyer is being raped from every angle. The lawyer's profession is being raped from every angle, such that at the end of the day, it will just become a skeleton of what a lawyer is supposed to be. The Cameroonian lawyer will become a skeleton of what a lawyer is supposed to be elsewhere. That's why we are saying, let some of these associations, they should be given the chance to get to the lawyer's field, absorbs people from all walks of life. You could be a doctor, you read law, you come and practice, you can specialize. Eventually we will specialize. Let all those fiscal experts, all those taxation, the customs experts, they should have a degree in law and come and practice as specialists in those domains. There's nothing wrong about that. But that they should go retirement and create a corps where they will be attend to clients without the clients being able to enjoy the benefits that they enjoy when they're dealing with lawyers. Because the lawyers have a corps and they go through some discipline. They go through how they relate with the client is governed by law, and there is a disciplinary corps the disciplinary bar council that sanctions a lawyer who does not protect the litigant, who does not protect his client, who exploits, who one way or other does not treat his client well. They sanction that lawyer and they make sure they do some justice to that client.
But the functioning of those institutions,
those institutions, they are not controlled.
Those experts, are they not backed by the law?
They are backed by the law, but what we are saying, they are backed by the law. That's why we are saying
so you're saying that the laws are bad?
The laws are not good. The laws are crafted with an intention to erode the lawyer's field of activity. They are created with an intention to help some class of persons have a job after they have served the government, to be able to exercise their technical know-how as professionals in a domain that lacks control. As far as the legislation is concerned, you just make the legislation that they are created as they are fiscal experts, or they are experts in customs issues, but they don't have the structure like the Cameroon Bar Association has to protect the litigant when he is caught in a web vis-a-vis his so-called expert. You see, it's only the government that will come in and maybe through prosecution that they will now control. But then we have in the bar, we have the code of ethics, the internal rules and regulations of the bar that govern the lawyer's discipline vis-a-vis his client. That protects the user of the services of a lawyer. It protects him because when there is any default by the lawyer, he is sanctioned. These other cores that they are creating, be they the criminal experts, be they the fiscal experts, be they the customs experts, do they have such a core? They're just created to be freelancers, to operate in the vacuum, to operate in the air, and they do anything and go unpunished.
Barrister,
the clients are not protected.
You are a former member of the Cameroon Bar Council, former representative of the Cameroon Bar Council, president in the northwest region of the country.
For about 10 years.
What is the Cameroon Bar doing in the face of what some of you lawyers have qualified as an attack on the legal profession in the country? What's the bar doing?
The Cameroon Bar Association has been doing the best it could do in the circumstances, and they have been doing, you see, by liaising up with some of us, the bar members, who are in the House, in the House of Parliament. In fact, they make the plight of a lawyer to be understood by the government. In fact, we argue some of the laws that are coming. We even attempt to bring in some.
I was going to ask you, those of you members of the bar who are in the parliament, where the laws are made, what happened that the laws had to go through, promulgated, and they are now in
if you were to understand the lawmaking process in this country, you will know how helpless the lawyer is over their own laws. You see, it is crafted by the government. Copies are sent, draft copies are sent to the Bar Council when they deem necessary for their own input. They make their own input, they make their own adjustments, and when it gets to the government, the Minister of Justice, they have the discretion to either take those adjustments into consideration or send their bill to Parliament the way it was made originally. And most often it is the latter option that they take, because it is crafted in the ministry with a biased mind vis-a-vis the lawyers. So the lawyers don't have a direct say. They don't have a direct impact over their own laws that govern their profession. They only propose, and it's now left for the government to either take or to leave it. So that's how the other law went through. We would not have authorized the operation of agents d'affaires or to give room for some state employees to take over our jobs and even represent the government department before the court. Not representing them as parties, because they're normally supposed to be representing them as parties, but they represent them and they are given a chance to quote the law without being the lawyers that they are supposed to be.
Senator Barrister Henry Gamze KEMENDE, member of Cameroon's Upper House of Parliament, barrister at law. Thank you for joining me in this edition of The Insight.
The pleasure has been mine, Mr. Babila Jonathan.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.